Hey, Avi, good morning.
Hey, hey,
How you doing today?
really good. Hey, I'm having a kick hanging out with your crowd here, and I must say that it's a different feeling to be a guest on somebody else's show. I mean, I'm more relaxed because I know when I was on the other side, I was like, oh God, this dial, that dial. So anyway, I'm just so happy to be here.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's come full circle in a sense. We've one of the first live streams that I think I ever did, or I actually can't remember, was the one that I did on your channel. Was that an actual live stream or was that a recorded video?
I think that was recorded. I wasn't
Okay.
quite doing live streams yet back then. I think,
Yeah,
yeah, but
but
remember
it
you having it.
yeah, and I know like you've certainly been you've been doing this about a year or so longer than me, and you have what close to 100,000, or have you passed that 100,000 mark yet on YouTube for
I did pass
subscribers?
100,000. Yeah, I
Okay,
passed
so
the 100,000 mark. Yeah,
nice. So have you gotten the silver play button yet?
I have. I have. Yeah, I haven't opened it, and my kids keep asking me, and there's a deeper story there. We'll save it for another day.
I would imagine, yeah, like, and I feel like that's one of those things. It's almost like there's an obligatory like unboxing video you kind of do when when you open one of
Yeah,
those things and just record like the kind of the humbling experience of
yeah,
like I got to a point where I managed to get like a YouTube award from Google.
yeah. That's pretty awesome. And yeah, for me, oddly enough, it's been kind of a some struggle between like the numbers no longer make sense to me because I love connecting to people deeply personally. And some part of me still
Yeah.
thinks back to when I started on this journey and I had, I think, like 20 people in my first program and I knew every one of them and we were friends and we
hmm
hung out. So yeah, but hey, it's I'm grateful.
Yeah, no, and I know you've taken a pivot recently with kind of a change of stuff that we can get into a little bit more. But for people tuning in, I know there's probably looks like a handful of people. Adam's hanging out today, but for
Wow.
some context for them in our history, like we go way back. I think the first time we met was back even before I worked at Power Pivot Pro. It was one of those times that Rob Colley was streaming as a guest at the Modern Excel User Group. I
I
brought up
remember
that
that
like
day.
yeah, I brought up the story just like, oh yeah, by the way, your training helped get me a job at Bellevue College. That led to another
Yeah,
conversation between us, which ended up
yeah,
while you were working at P3, I ended up getting employed there. We both have since gone on to do our
yeah,
own things and everything. But we have like I think of all the MVPs that I know and anybody within the community, we have one of the longer histories, certainly. I think you and Chuck are probably
yeah,
like the two oldest people that I or like have the longest standing relationships that I have between anybody. So we go way back. But for
yeah.
the few people that at least probably in the chat that don't know you, do you want to get a little give a little bit of a background about yourself?
Well, so I do want to talk about the meeting, and I still remember that.
Oh
And
yeah.
oddly enough, so I know, and on that event, kind of Rob was speaking, but I was there. But I remember whenever I was going out to companies and doing training in a room of about 20, 25 people, usually there would be only one or two who would be like lit up, right? In a lot of different ways. Like, yeah, and they would talk to me and sort of stuff. And I think you were certainly the one who was lit up in the room that day, right? I mean, I can still remember, right? I mean, just talking to you, I mean, I could see kind of how excited you were. And if anything, I think that opens so many doors in your life. And if you don't realize that, right? I mean, that just being in that zone where you love what you do.
hmm
So yeah, I'll have a bit of an intro later on, but
Okay. Yeah.
that has become my passion to
Mm.
how can I yeah, how can I help people operate in that zone where they just love what they do? And I think from that point everything else just becomes easier.
I think it's also just a perfect example of really like proving if you put yourself out there in situations where you increase your chance of having opportunities of those, um,
Oh,
perfect medians, like it, yeah, like literally proving
yeah.
like my career got kickstarted because I kept going to meetup groups and I eventually,
Oh,
managed
yeah,
to make a connection at them, which, is the goal of
right.
really any of them. Now that I can occasionally help present at the Excel user group. It's like that you occasionally go for the learning, but a lot of it is really the socialization, which I cannot wait for post COVID to happen again, because like
Yeah.
that's really like at least 50% of the reason you attend those is just the networking socials before and after the actual presentations, either
Yeah.
with the instructors or with each other.
Absolutely. I mean, there's so much in there, and of course, I talk about this line that I love, which is to be someone different, you got to do something different. I mean, I talk to a lot of people. It's like, yeah, I ask them like, hey, what are your goals? What do you want out of your life? And they say a lot of things, but then the key question is, are you willing to do things, do different things? And I know in my life, I was kind of, I always felt like a disadvantage. Believe it or not, I'm an introvert. And there's a whole story there. I mean, a lot of people don't believe me. Introversion has nothing to do with public speaking or being on stages or being on YouTube Live or anything like that. It's introversion is more about where you draw your energy and what drains your energy. So I'm a huge introvert, and I know in my mind there was a big block saying, oh, I feel uncomfortable. The thing is, you got to find your own way. It doesn't matter if you're an introvert, extrovert, or something in between. Who cares? Or whatever you feel your problem is, right? I mean, you got to find your own way, because I think connections do matter. So yeah, clearly your story is a terrific example of that, man. That's awesome.
And like, I just wanted to mention, Adam's pointed out, it's just like I think a lot of the people who do this are introverted. Where it comes, like, as you mentioned, where do you collect your energy from? Do you need to recharge with friends, or do you need to recharge at home by yourself?
I know, yeah, exactly. And so I always tell others, so, when I say I'm an introvert, people are like, no, I'm like, dude, do you know, whenever I would speak at a conference, like there was a time when mine was like one of the first speeches in the conference, very early in the schedule. I
Yep.
did that speech, and pretty much this was after every conference speech, right? I would do my part, and then I would just want to go back to my hotel room, curl up with a book, just draw right? I mean, yeah, so, and that's okay, because, right, because I need that to recharge. I need my me time and so forth. Extroverts, they want to be at a party, right? I mean, that's what recharges them. But again, it has nothing to do with what's possible for you in your professional career. Nothing at all, right? I mean, a lot of these things that we think that, oh yeah, but I'm not this. These are learned skills, right? I mean, public speaking, blah, blah, all of this YouTube Live, social media, it's just learned skills. You can do it too. Now you'll do it differently.
Yep.
I'm not going to be a Tony Robbins up on the stage ever, right? And why should I be, right? So I'm
Yeah.
not that. But yeah, you got to be yourself, but there's always a path forward, a path to what you want.
Well, I mean, and the idea of even just like the imposter syndrome is a real thing. Everybody experiences that at some point in their life. Like you get to a spot that's in your edge zone, and you're kind of like, wait, I'm at a level of perceived expertise. Am I really at that level? And honestly, a small amount of that is healthy, because it makes sure that you prepare for your speech, or you actually you don't just roll up into there cocky and confident and thinking you're just going to knock it out of the park. And the first time that I ever presented, or and the story of like when I taught at PLB College for the first time, I swear I was like sweating literal bullets that night and stumbling through everything, and I thought I bombed it. People still enjoyed, really, really loved the class, but I was beyond nervous. I have not at all been like a natural public speaker. I don't think anybody goes onto the stage for the first time with 1,000 pair of eyes on them, which I think even from an evolutionary perspective is terrifying, to have that many eyes fixated on you. It's something you grow into and you get used to, but it takes time.
So true. And yeah, I think it's hashtag backwards. So people are like, they get stuck in this waiting stage. Like, oh, I'm not ready, right? And when I'm ready, then I'm going to do all these things, right? Then I'm going to do this and do that, and right, whatever. So but they're constantly in this I'm not ready stage, and that's a trap, because you get caught in the learning paradox, right? The more you learn, the horizon expands, the less you know. So like, oh, but I don't know this. Oh, but I don't know R. I don't know SQL. I don't know Azure. I don't know AIM. And you're never ready. And of course, the folks that I look around, the MVPs, you, Adam, anybody, take anybody's story. They didn't wait for that fear to go away. And I mean, and think about it. What is courage? Think about the bravest hero whose story you, grew up to, like listening to. Did they not have fear? No, that's not true. I mean, they were as afraid as the person next to them. Courage is about doing what you need to do in spite of the fear. So some people
absolutely.
like wait for that fear to go away, and it never goes away.
I like what you said. It's courage is not an absence of fear. It's overcoming the fear, or making a decision despite that fear, and progressing forward. 100%. I'm just checking the chat. Yeah, and just like I'm loving just like some of the conversations about even Adam's I think going off of some of our ideas of just the introversion is being able to get up on stage and orate and project and just present confidence, but then I'm just gonna go chill and watch a movie now at the end of the night and just get my alone time.
Oh
Honestly,
man.
I like the term that I think I've been using for about a decade now, but the amnivert, which is just the
Hmm.
if it's both and like there's months where I fluctuate in I when I think forward to like I have downtime this week, my first thought is I want to like spend time with friends and hang out and just socialize, and then I swing to the other direction where it's I just need me
Yep.
time for like 2 to 3 weeks, and just
Yeah.
so I swing the pendulum back and
Oh,
forth where
oh
my
man.
recharge comes from one of
Love
the
it.
two, but I it really
Love it.
just
Love it.
yeah,
Love it.
exactly. But I think it's a great term
Yeah.
because I think a lot of people fall into that category where it's not either or, it's a both and.
That's true. What's interesting is that I've been thinking about the same concept, and of course, so I do. That was my journey, right? I mean, I started off saying I'm an introvert, but then I realized, and so I was saying I'm an introvert, so I can't do this, this, and this, and then I realized, oh no, I can do it. I'll just do it differently. But then, of course, lately I've started to question this whole labeling thing that we do, right? I mean, it's unbelievable how many labels we stick on our face. And of course, for me, one of the big labels was being an entrepreneur. And I just didn't feel that I was an entrepreneur. I thought I was faking it.
Hmm.
And part of that came from in India, there's this big divide between like the business community and
Hmm.
kind of the salaried people. It's far bigger than the US. And my dad had a 9 to 5 job all his life and so forth. So I just didn't think that I had it in me. So I didn't think that I could do it even when I was actually doing it, believe it or not, right? So yeah, man, all of
Yeah.
these labels we put on ourselves, and introvert, extrovert is just one of them. It's like, who cares? Nobody cares. Just go out and do something, and do what you love, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, don't let any of that stop you. So yeah,
But
labels.
I'd love to hear kind of like some of your more recent journey to give it even a little bit more context for viewers. I know you for years ago you came from Microsoft, having a long tenure there, moved out into the consulting business, created a really you did a really great job of like branding and identity and creating a persona. Like essentially I don't know if you said it or others did, but like the Mr. Power BI in a sense, like there's a certain level aura that you project of just like fun and empowerment that you've been going on to, and and you've slowly been making a transition with
Yeah,
that too. You've gone from more
yeah,
like technical stuff, and you've continually gone more and more into the
yeah,
kind of helping encourage and stand up people. And I think even within the last 12
yeah.
months, there's kind of been a pivot for you. Is that right?
Well, yes and no.
Okay.
So on the outside, it does seem like a pivot, and I guess it is, right? So again, I mean, instead of focusing on teaching Power BI, my focus is pretty squarely on, well, I mean, I feel like there are a lot of ways you can learn Power BI. Yeah, so my course is there, but there are tons of others, right? So, but I feel like where I see people struggle is, and where I want to help them is to leverage their skills and not just create a successful career, but a successful life. So that's what it seemed like on the outside. But on the inside, in a way, things have never changed. And of course, I'm thinking about Simon Sinek, Start with a Why, and he says everybody has a why, and it never changes. And for me, that's always been been about connecting people. So right. So yeah. I mean, I want to connect and empower them, and that's what I was doing earlier. That's what I'm doing now. Of course, I feel like I'm getting better and better at it. I'm serving them at a higher and higher level, more impactful. Like, I mean, if you teach them Power BI, it's like, yeah, great. But if you teach them, oh, great, you know Power BI, but hey, so do a million other people, right?
Yeah.
How do you rise above that crowd? Now that's valuable. So again, in a way it's changed, but in a way it's not.
Yeah, I think the core reason behind both of them has the topic to service the goal. I think is where the pivots happen. But like you said, either way, you've always been trying to empower people with what you're teaching. Just it's just
Yeah.
changed a little bit on the actual topic within that teaching practice.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So hey, I must say, man, I'm kind of I want to dive into the topic that these folks came for. I don't want to keep them waiting too
Yeah,
long.
absolutely. I want to just give one quick little shout out. Adam dropped us a little bit of money there. So Avi, next time we're in person,
Ah!
we're gonna grab a little bit of some coffee or something like that. But he gets a little thank you for that. So
Yeah.
Adam, thank you so
Yeah.
much. All right, and then
Yeah, man.
wait,
And
go
yeah.
ahead.
And I will say that, yeah, man, can't wait for some of the events to start up again so we can hang out with this crowd. I can see Adam and Patrick and you. Yeah,
I'll
very good.
make one last mention of that is Yoast over in Europe is in Copenhagen is hosting the Power BI Next conference, which is going to be in person and like probably within like a couple of hours of him posting that, I immediately applied to for a presentation and got accepted there. I am beyond excited to actually travel for the first time in like 15 months to go to a conference. So I am really excited to hang it. Like my Carlo is going to be there. A lot of other MVPs. Like it's that's probably the most excited
Yeah.
I've been for a trip. That it's a work trip on top of that technically. So I'm really excited to hang out with people again. It's something you miss. Like I live for reading the crowd and like so much of presenting comes from that. You know.
That's true. That's true. Speaking of that, yeah, I'll try my best. We were talking earlier about how virtual is a little tricky. All right, folks. So
Exactly.
here we are, and this is what we had promised: how to start your Power BI career on the right foot by niching down. Now we were talking about conferences, and remember being there, and there would be like 5 rooms or 20 rooms or whatever, and different sessions going on. And sometimes I would end up in the wrong room, and I would be so embarrassed. I'm like, "Oh shit, I didn't want to do this. I don't want to do that one. That's across the hall." Um, Ironically, it still happens for virtual sessions. So I want to make sure that everybody is in the right room. So who is this session for? Are you in the right room? Well, this is for you if you're keen on starting a career in Power BI or to take your career to the next level. And you do want to start on the right foot. So I was thinking about this, like, the saying, the well begun is half done. I was thinking, what's the opposite of that? Yeah, if anybody knows, like, what would be the opposite of that? Type it in. I don't know. But yeah, clearly you don't want that because you do want to avoid the mistake of missing or messing up the very first step and crucial step in your journey.
Yep.
And that's what I'm going to help you with. Now, this session may not be for everybody, though. It's certainly not for somebody who likes doing the same thing over and over again, even if it's not working, but they keep expecting different results. I think you're a bit delusional. So yeah, it's probably not going to be for you. And I love this saying, and I mentioned this earlier, yeah, to be someone different, you got to do something different. So yeah, so folks, hopefully that's that's what the session is for and isn't for. And yeah, hopefully you're in because it's going to be a fun ride. Okay, so let's get in there, and I'm going to start with a question. Right? I mean, we're going to talk about how to start your Power BI career and all of this stuff, but why is it even important? So I want to hear from you. I want you to type it in the chat box and tell us, what would that get you? What would having a successful Power BI career, getting started or getting to the next level that you want to, what would that get you and why is it important to you? So we're going to come back and look at some of your answers. So make sure to type that in.
And I'll queue them up.
Meanwhile, awesome. That's great. I'll share a bit of my story. So yeah, some of you may know me from my YouTube channel. And yeah, I mean, even though I've now reached probably hundreds of thousands of people through my YouTube channel, Microsoft MVP, Microsoft Partner, we have thousands of members in our Learn Power BI program. And we have the Elite Power BI Consultant program. That one has just 21 members all over the world. Even though that's kind of where I'm right now, but that's not where I started. I started off in this place. Anybody knows what I call this? I call this the data dungeon. And I know I'm not alone. Like everybody's alone in their own data dungeon, but I know I'm not the only one who was stuck in there. And I think the two good signs to tell if you're stuck in a data dungeon are if you feel you're overworked and underappreciated. Those are two classic signs. And boy, I spent a good amount of time of my 15 plus years in corporate America stuck in the data dungeon, just cranking out reports and yeah, just feeling like a cog in the machine. And hey, I don't want to be ungrateful. I mean, I come from a very humble background in India. And yeah, so I was grateful for what I had, but I often wondered if that was as good as it got, right? I mean, I wondered, like, is there more to life? And I didn't know. I just didn't know. So of course, that's my mission now. I want to change people's lives. I don't want you to just learn Power BI. I want you to become a pro. Now, what does that mean? For me, it means not only creating a successful Power BI career, but also a life of freedom. In fact, these are the three key things that I want for myself, and I also want for all of my students and my followers. I want you to do what you love and get really good at it. It's so much fun living your life that way. When work is joy, is it work anymore? And the second part, you know what? I really think that we care about each other and we care about the world. And there's such primal joy when you help somebody, right? When you create a report for somebody and see the faces light up. Oh, guys, yeah, it's such a rush. And yeah, so I think that's important for us to make an impact, to live a life that mattered, to be able to help others. And of course, the last part is a life of freedom, or as I like to call it, life by design. So of course, I talk about modeling by design versus modeling by accident, which is, somebody just threw up data inside a Power BI model. You look at the relationship view and it's like, what is going on? That's modeling by accident, right? That's not modeling by design. And the same thing with visualization. I mean, they just throw some visual on the chart. That's dashboard by accident. But think about our lives. Most of our lives, I know mine it was a life by accident. Like if somebody would say like, Avi, why are you working here doing this and working so many hours? And I would say, I don't know, this happened and that happened and this happened and that happened. That's life by accident. What if we could design our life? What would you design it to be? All right, so that's a bit about me. Let's come back and see
Beautiful.
what people said.
I had three responses and two questions, so I'll throw them up here. The first one was from Anthony, right here. There we go. Exposure to different sectors to stretch one's business and data modeling skills.
Nice.
Yep, and you let me know if you want to comment on it any further, or just let me know when you want me to throw the next one up too.
Other stuff has.
Okay.
Show me all three, and yeah.
One from Adam to Avi's question: learning and growing more with Power BI to help reach more people and improve others' journey with Power BI, but also getting better at technology. It's a good. Both are great answers. And then I think being able to use. I think this I think was the response to one again from Anthony is being able to use all the knowledge I've gained in a business context.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome. So, yep, that is spot on. And I'm actually surprised that nobody mentioned this. This is like the gorilla in the room, but I don't know if people are shy or something. I don't think you should be. I think, I'm not shy about it. Yeah, I want to earn more money. And a lot of times we carry a lot of baggage around money, and it's just taboo thing nobody wants to talk about. And I'll admit, growing up in India, there was some connotation that money is evil. Maybe it is there in the US as well. I don't really know. But some part of me, grew up with that money is evil. But then I realized that, no, money isn't evil. It doesn't make a person good or bad. It frankly just amplifies who they are. So usually if you end up making more money if you're a good person, well, you're going to use it for good things. Mm-hmm. So yeah, more money is a good thing. More time is a good thing. More impact and influence. We certainly heard that. More words. People sometimes talk about that. I just want to make me feel worthy. More freedom and choice, which is a little bit more than time. So think about like being able to choose your work, what you work on, what you focus on. And my favorite part, being able to choose the people you work with, and that's freedom. And really, you get to define it. And that's what I was talking about earlier about life by design. It's like, what life would you live if you could have any life? And why not go towards that? I mean, why say that it's not possible and do nothing? So there can be a lot of reasons. And I'm sure you have a good one. We all tend to want it, but I think the first place we need to start with that is now a good time. Right? I mean, imagine if somebody offered you a really nice winter jacket in the middle of the summer. It's like, yeah, that's great, but now it's just not the right time. So let's talk about that. And so that's part one here. It's now a good time for Power BI. And I'm going to go through this quick because I don't think there's much convincing needed, hopefully, but I do want you to be aware of this. And man,
And
I
this will actually
love.
be once we have
Mhm.
a natural pause in this conversation, because you're like kind of asking why Power BI specifically. There's a question related to that versus other tools. So at any point you want me to throw that
Terrific.
up, I can do that.
Great. We might save the Q&A for later. I do want
Okay,
to stay on for all of the questions and get that,
okay,
but usually
perfect.
when I get cracking. So all right. All right. So I love this graphic. 2015, Microsoft is kind of lost in the pack. This is a BI Magic Quadrant. And if I hadn't highlighted them in yellow, you wouldn't even be able to see them.
Oh yeah.
But keep following the yellow dot. So 2015 is, of course, when Power BI was officially released. Now, you ready? Oh, let's go for a ride. 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Oh my God, it's been an unbelievable ride. So this is 2021 blown
Yep.
up. Man, they are not only a clear leader, they're a dominant leader in the BI industry. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. One of the reasons is, for one, they're pretty much giving away Power BI. So a lot of these companies subscribe to Office. They right? I mean, they have Office, and well, guess what? Power BI is just, for most companies, they just throw it in there and say, "Oh, look, we have Power BI." So I think they're a
Hmm.
dominant force, and those two factors just make them unstoppable. Now, of course, there's a bigger factor, and we can't ignore that. In fact, well, so that's the COVID pandemic, and right, I mean, things seem hard. And I know they're challenging right now, and you might be going through extremely challenging times. But if you look at the bigger picture, this isn't new. This is not the first time we've gone through this. In fact, if you look at a really big picture and look at the economic cycles, we do go through these bust and boom cycles. But that's the key. A boom always follows a bust. Now, of course, there is another bust, but in general, the
Yeah.
economy grows upwards. And I'm, you call me an optimist, but that's what the data shows. That's what the economists say, that hey, bust and boom is going to flow in a cycle. So given that we went through this extreme downturn, what is going to happen next? It's going to be a boom. And of course, we're in an era where data is the new oil. Where how does a company grow without leveraging the data and having insights available to them? You can't. So Power BI and BI in general is going to be an integral part of it. So I do believe. Well, actually, you know what? So, well, that's my case, and you be the judge. You make up your own mind, right? So, for one, I told you the factors. Power BI is dominant, and it's going to be
Hmm.
dominant for the foreseeable future. There's this big bust and boom cycle, and that, yeah. So that's what's coming. Now, there's another thing which I'm not going to dive into today's session because I'm going to be focused on our topic here. But there also, I believe that there's some trends which will greatly favor Power BI consulting, which will, of course, in general help the Power BI and BI industry overall. So there's some trends there. So that's part one. Is now good time for Power BI. And again, I told you the factors. Just make up your own mind. But of course, that maybe leads you to asking the next question. I was like, okay, cool. It's a great time, but is it gonna be easy? Can I do it? Ah, well, let's talk about that. So I got three ways to look at it for you. One is demand versus supply. The next one is barrier to entry, and the last one is unwinnable game. Let's talk about the first one, which is demand versus supply. Now we've talked about the demand side, right? So we talked about the factors, the probably the dominant
Hmm.
force, boom is coming, so forth. So yeah, I mean, by all intents and purposes, the demand is going to skyrocket. But what happens to the supply side when demand skyrockets? I mean, think about face masks, right? I mean, when the demand skyrocketed, what happened to the supply side? Well, it catches up. So let's look at the trends here. So this one is from a developer population and demographic study. And it said by 2024, India will overtake the US as the largest developer population center. Asia and Pacific Latin, they're also showing strong growth. So yeah, I mean, supply always catches up to the demand. And we can see that in the developer industry. I mean, you can just go to a site like Fiverr or Upwork or anything and just search for, let's say, Java developer. And there are lots and lots of people out there offering great services at great prices. And it's going to be naive to presume that Power BI is going to be any different. In fact, it maybe already isn't. Right? You go to the same site and search for Power BI. There's lots of help out there. So, yeah, I mean, we did talk about the demand, but the supply always catches up, is going to catch up. Let's talk about the next factor, the barrier to entry. Now, the barrier to entry is just something that makes it harder for new entrants to enter the field. It can be a good thing. So if you're a Power BI expert and it's really hard for others to become, step into this domain, well, you're at an advantage. But so I know there was a statistical tool some time ago, and we had one license in our whole team, and it was really expensive product, and you had to fight over who's going to use that license. Well, times have changed, haven't they? Right? I mean, it's just start free and try free. Where is the barrier? Anybody can go here, download, and just do whatever they want, right? And of course, we talked about earlier how Microsoft is pretty much giving it away for free to companies. So if you are in a company with an Office license, most likely you just have Power BI and Power BI Pro and all of that. And of course, the other side, the free training. And it's always surprised me. I look at my tutorial and it's got like 2 million plus views. And of course, that's just a drop in the bucket, right? I mean, that's nothing. Just go to YouTube, search for Power BI. I don't even know what count you're going to get. But so if the tool is available for free, there's tons of free training available. What does that do to the barrier to entry? Well, frankly, it's not much of a barrier at all, right? I think it's pretty non-existent. So that doesn't bode well. And all of this kind of combines it to make this what I call the unwinnable game. And this one is hard. I know I've struggled with it, and I don't know if it was my experience or maybe it's general, but as I got kind of older, really, right, and it became harder to play this game, and to the point where I felt it was unwinnable. Because I was in a spot where I was thinking, damn it, there are guys out there, there are people out there who are smarter than me. I mean, they're so focused on learning, and they're learning the new stuff, right, all the time, and I'm trying to catch up to them, and I never can. They're smarter than me. They're willing to work harder. And again, as I'd gotten older, I couldn't spend 80-hour weeks. I mean, I wanted to be with my family. I did end up sacrificing a lot on the family side, but it hurt. And I didn't want to continue that. So there are people who don't care about that. It's like, yep, I'll work 80-hour weeks. And like, God, smarter, they work harder. And the last part of the whammy, damn it, they're willing to do it for less money. How do you compete with that? How do you win? I don't think you do. And if your answer is that, I'm going to learn more, and yep, I'm going to keep learning, and yeah, I'm going to work harder too. I'm going to work harder than them. But then what about the last part? Are you going to say, I'm going to work for less money than any of them? Well, guess what? You've already lost the game. You just don't know it yet. So that's a game you can't win. So what do you do when you can't win the game? Well, the only way to get out of that is you got to change the game. So that's part 3, my friends. Now we're getting to the good stuff. Now for this, let's take a step back a bit, and not to be too judgy, but sometimes I wonder if we live in a fair world. So 26 of the richest people have the same wealth as the bottom half of the world. Now, the ones at the top, I'm sure they live a good life, but the bottom half is left fighting for scraps. Now, why is this relevant? You're going to see in a minute. So talking about the unwinnable game, let's take an example. Let's talk about Google. And let's say, we all know that the Google top search results are the ones that get the most clicks. But I want you to try to guess that what percentage of clicks do the top 3 results commandeer? All right, so think about it. And I don't know what you thought, but I know I was surprised by this answer. So 75%, 75% of all clicks just go to top 3. And any other search result, I mean, frankly, even if you're 4 or 5 or God forbid number 10, you're fighting for scraps. And God forbid if you're on page 2, you might as well not exist. And that's the world we live in. ouch, it's this top heavy, right? I mean, these players, these winners, they dominate. And then there's this long tail, which is just everybody else, the 99%, right? Who are just fighting for scraps. So how do you change that? I mean, obviously, you don't want to live in that long tail. You want to be in that top. You want to be in the winners group. Now, remember, we are talking about Google search results here, and trust me, it will apply to Power BI. The answer is really simple. You got to target a specific keyword. And instead of going after cooking, good luck getting to the top 10 or top 3 or top number 1 spot for that, right? I mean, good luck with that, because it's just not going to happen, right? I mean, you can't play at that game at that level yet. So you don't start there. You target something very specific. And of course, it has to match something with what you know about, what you experience at, what you're good at. But, this could be something, how to cook chicken soup that kids would eat. And let's say you nail that one. You get in the top 10 or the top 3 or the top 1 even. Then you can go from there, because now you have an opening. Maybe you can say, hey, how to cook carrots that kids would eat, or get really adventurous and talk about broccoli or Brussels sprouts, anything. And then once you've had these successes, you're in the top 10, you've nailed these down, you've nailed these niches, right? You've won them. Then you can expand a bit. Say, hey, all of this is around health, and maybe we don't focus on kids. Maybe we can expand a bit and we talk about family dinners. And again, and you can, once you have that foot in the door, you can expand. But, and hey, who knows, maybe you would become the top 10 or the top 3 or top 1 in the cooking keyword, in the big keyword one day. But what's crucial is this first step. That most people either completely miss, they completely overlook because they're unaware, or they try and they mess it up. And that's, of course, you target a niche. You gotta target a niche, a distinct segment of the market. That's your ticket to, so it's a choice. So you don't have to do it, but I think it becomes a choice between, well, you want to live here in the long tail, or you want to be here in the winners group. And targeting a niche, it isn't hard. It's not rocket science. It's pretty straightforward, in fact. The first rule is that don't be a Power BI professional, right? Don't lead with technology. It doesn't work. It's like trying to climb on a sand dune, right? I mean, you take one step forward and you slide 2 steps back. I mean, that's the sand dunes of technology. Instead, I want you to be a business professional who just leverages Power BI, right? And of course, so I talked about this earlier, right? I mean, so I talked about my mission here: do what you love, make an impact, life of freedom. And one way we help people with that is we run a program specifically for Power BI consultants. And this one is an elite group. There are just 21 members all over the world. But guess what? This is their step 1. This is where all of them start. And every member in a program, you would see that they start by defining a niche and targeting that, be it healthcare, construction, call centers, renewable energy, supply chain, sustainable coffee, or anything else. Now, I just want to give you a little flavor of what that looks like. And this one is Greg Berg, who targets specialty coffee. And I think it's going to be easiest if I just show you his profile. So you go on LinkedIn, come across Greg Berg on LinkedIn, and look at that. I help leaders in the coffee and manufacturing industry. You can read the rest about strategic coffee industry leaders. You could be, all of that. If you look at his posts, So this one is, what is this? Weekly roast plan, right? So specific, so targeted. And look at this one. What is this one? Units, food production schedule, right? So everything he does, especially coffee. And by the way, they were featured by Microsoft, and one of his clients were featured by Microsoft in a case study. And if you go to his website, same thing, right? I mean, I empower strategic leaders in the coffee and manufacturing industry. And they also did a webinar recently around this whole thing. And that's what it looks like. So again, it's pretty simple, right? So but it gives you that edge, it gives you that opening in the door, makes things easy for you, levels the playing field in a way. So we do want to work with you on the bit. And what I would like to hear from the audience is that if they can fill in this blank. So again, it's as easy as this. You can say, I help, and then put in like a business segment. I help something, right? So I help project managers in aerospace manufacturing solve the problems with Power BI. So I want to hear that from you, and we're going to do Q&A as well. But I also wanted to give Reed's audience here a little bit more. And so I mentioned the Power BI Consult program, and with them, we worked through this 5-step process. And step 1 is target a niche. Now, for those who are interested in just finding out, they're curious about, hey, what are the 5 steps? What does it take? What does that journey kind of look like? Then find me on LinkedIn, and right there, you're going to find this article, 5 Steps to Become a Successful Power BI Consultant, and that talks about these ones. So that's it. Let's let me know if I convinced you or not. If you have still doubts, if you have questions, definitely put them in the chat. But again, if some of you can kind of fill in this blank, that would be awesome. Whew. All right, man. That was well, actually, I'll let the audience decide. I know I enjoy talking about this stuff, but yeah. So Reed, if there are any questions earlier or now, let's see if we can discuss some of them.
Sure. So there was one immediate response to this, which was from Kendall, that he helps inventory and supply chain managers solve their problems using Power BI. And I'll then let you comment on that if you want. Right. And so that was one good one. I'll let some others percolate in, and let me go ahead and actually throw up some questions now as well. One was from what you started, I think, in like part 1 earlier, is like, why Power BI versus other ones? So let me throw that on this. Like, what's some of the most advantageous factors? So I'll at least give my 2 cents a little bit into the back end of it. Is a lot of people think of Power BI as just a visualization tool. It is one thing that it does, but honestly, like, there are other tools that do visualizations better. Power BI comes with modeling and infrastructure and all of the ecosystem. Like, the tabular engine is Power BI. Like, that is the reason it's so powerful. It's the modeling backend that allows it to create the visualizations. But every component and plugin and Power Apps and Power Automate, the Office system, all of that, that's what makes it unique, is it's one company that produces all of that and integrates it better versus other things which work well with partners, but sometimes there's issues with development, or the optimization isn't there. So that's personally why I think Power BI is such a foundational tool versus other ones that exist out there.
Yeah, I totally agree. On Kendall's point earlier, so hey, Kendall, you might want to connect with, or at least look up Eric Netenya on LinkedIn. He's one of our members in the program, and he is into third-party logistics. So when you talked about supply chain, I immediately thought of him. But yeah, that's great. I do think that Power BI is the best thing since sliced bread. I mean, I think what they have done is brilliant, and they were the industry leaders. And I think it's kind of the best of both worlds, because we had the big scale BI earlier, right? I mean, all of these expensive tools, even including Microsoft's, they were there. And then there was the poor man's BI tool, Excel, which was, again, very flexible and very approachable to the the lowly business analysts like me. But it had these rough edges, right? It wouldn't scale. It would become a death by 1,000 cuts. And Power BI just, right? I mean, it got the best of both worlds. You get something which is approachable by business users like me, but it is robust. It is not a death by 1,000 cuts, right? You build a model, and man, that can answer so many reports. And yeah, I do think that Power BI is very uniquely positioned there, not to talk about the cloud presence and how they were the first movers there and still keep innovating. And what I will say is that, man, I think competition is great. I was so happy when Salesforce bought Tableau, because I want the competition to be around, because if history has shown, Microsoft is their own worst enemy. I mean, look at what happened to Internet Explorer after they conquered or vanquished Netscape Navigator. man, I mean, Chrome came on and ate their lunch, right? So, so I'm really, really glad and thankful that these other tools and competitors are there, nipping at their heels, because they're going to keep Microsoft innovating. But yeah, let's be
Mhm.
honest, Power BI is the place to be.
Completely agreed. Uh, what one other one that I had as a question, and then I had one more response to what you had as the targeting a niche. So let me throw this last question up from Kendall. I want to start a YouTube channel teaching Power BI and Power Apps. How can I distinguish myself from other people? Being the one with the, I think, second highest, but outside of a guy in a cube, I'll let you field this one first.
Um, so I'll so you just heard me make this whole case about targeting a niche. So I'll stick with that. I'll say, actually, let's take a step back. So of course, first thing that I would ask is that what is your goal with a YouTube channel, right? And let's say you're an employee and you want to build a social presence. What is that going to give you? That's going to give you more control over your life, right? I mean, if you have a social presence, well, that may be considered a factor in promotion, or it may make it easier for you to get a new job in the same company or the next, right? So that's going to help you. And if you're a consultant, to build that social presence, it's going to have you more say with clients. They're going to come to you. They're going to see a persona. Frankly, it's so I always say do good work and tell great stories. So it gives you that platform, which lets you have more control over your life, right? But then if you are trying to connect more people and get started on the right foot,
Hmm.
I would definitely recommend niching it down. So make
Hmm.
that channel Power BI and Power Apps. I think Kendall mentioned the supply chain. Make it about that. Start with that, and uh, yeah, kind of conquer that niche. See what keywords are there, and then you can expand from there if you like.
And I'll give one little add-on to that too is start writing ideas down. Like so many of my videos that I do, it's like I'm working on a project and somebody requires a solution that I find a kind of a unique way to do because it's not technically available in Power BI, so you find a workaround. Write that down. Like, would this be a good topic? Would other people benefit from this? Having something that makes you stand out because now you're unique because you've provided a solution online that doesn't exist in other places, or maybe it's a different take or a different spin on how to do something. Because if you just try to sit down and think about what's a video I can do, I find it a lot harder to come up with ideas. They just come out naturally through work and other stuff. So just keep a journal, start writing all that stuff down.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I had one last comment on your question, which was right here from Marshall's. I help my CEO see what he can finally see and or how our core business is doing.
Yeah, that is great. I'm glad you're in the spot. I will say that I'm not implying that that's what you're limiting yourself to, but I would certainly kind of caution others. So the line that I said earlier, which is do good work, tell great stories. The preface to that is that was a story in my life for 15 plus years in corporate America
Hmm.
where, yeah, I mean, I was just so focused on working hard that I didn't realize that, well, the times have changed. So my dad had this 9 to 5 job um, all of his life in the same company, right? But we live in different times now. And one of the realities in this day and age is that you can't just hope to do good work and think that that's all it's going to take. That's what's going to lead you to success. And I've obsessed over this, and I've really studied this, looked back in my own life, looked back at the students who were getting what I call breakthrough success. And I saw one common factor, which is they don't just do good work, they tell great stories. And if you think about it, it makes sense, right? So I know I was in a spot for most of my life where if you asked how many people knew about my good work, the number was often one or zero. One, if I was lucky to have a good manager who cared and showed interest and stuff. Zero when I didn't have a good manager or whatever, and just went through a reorg and there were no people who knew about my good work. If you go from there to 10 people knowing about the work that you do, to 100, to 1,000, to 10,000, to 100,000. Now you don't have to go to 100,000, but even if you go from 1 to 10, by starting to tell the story of your work, right? And of course, you do that in different settings. You put yourself more in control of your own life.
Oh, I realized I was still on mute. I was going to say, did you have any slides left, or otherwise I was going to pop us actually onto a larger screen so they can see us a bit better for speaking.
Yep, no, this is it. Yeah.
Beautiful. Let me just flip us back over then. Yeah, for any other people who also have some questions left, there is one from Marshall that I answered a little bit in the chat, but I'll actually throw this up. It kind of goes a bit back to the conversation of why Power BI, but it's, I think there might be a slightly different spin on this. It's because from our perspective, why should we choose Power BI? And I think now from this perspective, how do we tell a customer they should choose Power BI?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so I play that game a little differently, right? So I don't walk in and I don't try to convince them about Power BI anything. I say, no, I don't know if the Power BI is going to be the right solution for you. And frankly, nobody knows. It could be one of the other tools, but there's only one way to find out. And it's an easy way to find out. You just give it a try, right? So I say, man, let's do a proof of concept. And the awesome thing for these new tools is that you can do something really, really quick. So, I'm sure Reed has gone through the same experience.
Mm-hmm.
Man, when I would be on site with a customer, it was pretty routine for us to build a solution in 1 to 3 days. And we would build something like, I remember we were building a solution for a healthcare company in Pennsylvania, and we were stuck in this basement conference room for 3 days. You end up making great friends, by the way, because you just spend so much time with each other. So I was hanging out with their kind of business analysts and financial analysts and all of that, and we were building a solution. And on day 3, we brought in the management and started showing. And they started clapping, and frankly, that was the first time that had happened to me, and I was like slightly embarrassed, like, why are they clapping, right? What the later they told me the story was that what we had built there in 3 days, they had tried for 1 year to build that using the old school approaches, right, and the whole IT and BI, big BI project, and failed. So that's how awesome this is. So yeah, I just say, the best way to proof's in the pudding. Let's just do a POC. Give me 1 day, give me 3 days. So of course, in person, you can move faster. Virtual, I would ask for a little more time, at least a week if you can get a month, but it's possible. And again, you'll have to judge
Mm-hmm.
that. And then that speaks for itself. So I don't like fighting that battle, this tool versus that tool, because I think it's kind of backwards. It's putting the cart before the horse.
Completely agreed. And I don't think there's any other questions at the moment in the chat, but I've just loved the lively discussions that have been happening this entire time. I think you've generated and sparked a lot of ideas between the people, and people have very much resonated with a lot of the ideas. Like, I think one of the ones that was called out was changing the game. I think that's it's almost like a good bumper sticker, or like, I feel like that could be a great shirt, at some point that you could have in the Learn Power BI store.
Yeah. What I wanna add, maybe the last thing, is that I want to call out Reed Haven's Zone of Genius. And I remember one of my students talking to me about it, and I so loved hearing it. And what he said was, so Avi, hey, Avi, I know you cover visualization. So he was part of my program. So he'd gone through my training, right? So he said, Avi, I know, and you talk about this 80-20 rule and 20% core concepts. And in your training program, you do cover the good core concepts of visualizations. And that's very important. I get it. But man, Reed, he makes it sing, right? I mean, he creates dashboards which are works of art, which could be hung in a gallery. So, and of course, since you guys are hanging out here, then you probably already know that. But yeah, think about it, right? I mean, that's the corner of the world that Reed look at his videos, and always dashboards that visually just eye-poppingly a fan.
I appreciate that. Thank you. That was my niche. after a while, I just like people started asking me more and more for design, and like, I should lean into that. It's something I
Yeah.
enjoy doing, and I don't think it's talked about nearly as much as DAX and Power Query and other stuff. Pretty much
Yeah.
everybody who has any channel or blog about Power BI does technical articles to some degree, but not nearly as many people talk about like how do we tell a story.
Yeah.
So at the end,
Yeah.
like you said, I never even it was not something I thought about as much as I just noticed it became more and more of both a passion and then um, something that
Yeah.
people were relying on me for, and just I just leaned into it.
Yeah.
The one thing that I've liked actually from way back in the day, there used to be a TV show on Discovery Channel called Dirty Jobs with Mike Rowe. And one of the things that he is like, you don't go looking for your passion in a job. You bring your passion to the job. Like I've met people who do very disgusting jobs, but like, and they're the happiest people I've ever met. Okay? It's not the job
Oh,
itself,
so
that
beautiful.
isn't something that by itself gives them the reward. It's they just find a way to get fulfillment out of it because they brought it
Exactly.
themselves. So yeah, I didn't
Oh,
think 10 years ago I'd be an analyst. I didn't think I'd be doing visualization, but I leaned into it and I found a way to enjoy it. But it's not something that
yeah.
just I didn't grow up thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to be an analyst. That was not my pipe dream. It was astronauts and firemen and all the other stuff that kids want to dream about. So I think that's one of my
Yeah.
takeaways is you need to pivot and reframe and think about how do I put passion into my job versus how do I find passion in it. Because if you're looking for it, it's going to be like trying to get water from a rock. It's not going to be there.
Love that, man. That's such a great sentiment. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
frankly, that's become my goal. To how can I stay in that? It's actually a scientific term. I didn't know that till I started reading up on it, and they call it flow. And flow is this mental state where you go in, and there is a scientific definition which I wouldn't know. I know the layman's version, but I love that one. And so the state of flow, and again, scientists can measure it, right? I mean, they can measure the brain waves and say, oh, are you in flow or are you not? But that state in layman's term is described as when you feel your best and you perform your best. And man, I mean, most people I talk to, they've experienced that to some degree. But yeah, I feel like the more part of your life you spend in that zone where you feel your best and you perform your best, good things are gonna happen, right? Doors are gonna open. Yep, yeah. So yeah, man, it's yeah. Bring your passion to the job. That's awesome. Love that one. That one can definitely be a bumper sticker or a t-shirt.
Exactly. Let's two. Yeah, I asked if anybody had remaining questions, so we'll answer these two, and then I think we can finish up for the day. A great one from Anthony again, which was your view. What is your view on getting a broad-based knowledge base in Power BI before finding your niche?
Yeah, it always feels that way, mate. But let me tell you, it's always going to feel that way. So again, I showed Greg Baird. Now he's had so many successful projects, and they all still talk about the discomfort, the fear of not knowing enough. That, oh, I'm going to embarrass myself. I'm going to embarrass my client. All of these fears play in our heads. And you just want those fears to go away. Please, please go away, right? I mean, yeah, tell me what I can do. Tell me the certification that I can get. Tell me the boxes that I can check for that fear to go away. But I have bad news for you, my friend. It just doesn't work that way. The fear is not going to go away. You're never going to be in a situation where you feel like, yeah, I got this broad base now. Now I'm ready. Nope, you're never going to feel ready, right? But
Exactly.
that's how life works. So the odd thing is that we want. Yeah. So there's a scene in Harry Potter where um, uh, he's standing in front of a mirror and he reaches out in his pocket and gets this gem out of his pocket, and the play there is that only somebody who doesn't want it can get it. And well, so it's kind of the same thing here. That's actually backwards. So what I see people doing is that so imagine, I call it the pyramid theory of Power BI. So imagine you're on a pyramid, right? And most people, what they do is they always look up, right? And I know who I look up to. And man, every time I stumble on their website or attend one of the conferences or watch their video, I feel like a complete idiot. So you might know, well, everybody knows who I'm talking about. I'm talking about the Italians, right? The SQL BI folks, Marco
Yep.
Russo, Alberto Ferrari. God, I mean, I just feel so inadequate, right? So we're all looking up, and hey, here's a secret, by the way. I can guarantee you, because I've sat down with entrepreneurs who make 10 millions a year and 100 million a year, they do the same thing. They
Hmm.
always look up. So we're always looking up, right? And we feel like, oh yeah, fine, we can't ever get there, but there has to be a point where we're gonna feel enough, we're gonna feel ready. But what you need to do is instead look down. Look down. There are people who are just a few steps behind you. They're the ones who you can help the most. In
Yep.
fact, you actually are the only person, the best person who can help them. Because imagine somebody who's getting started on Power BI. God forbid if they run into Marco Russo's blog, they will feel like this is impossible, right? I mean, they will feel like, nope, quit. Yeah, they're going to quit right there. They can't help them. They're too far ahead. But you can. Just the way, when we were in school, sometimes what the teacher was saying out there didn't make any sense to me. Because, man, frankly, that they understood these concepts, learned them 20 years ago, and then mastered it, right? And they were like, yeah, this is all easy. I mean, they would just do what they do. But then my friend sitting next to me would kind of nudge me with his elbow, look over what I was struggling with, and say, hey, I see where you're stuck. Man, I was getting stuck in the same spot last week. Here's what I did. Right. So the best teacher isn't at the top of the pyramid or in front of the class. Sometimes it's right next to you. So what you need to do is look down and help the people, the companies, right? And again, I'm not saying free help, get paid for it by all means, and help them who are just a few steps below. Now the the hashtag backwards thing is that the people who actually do that are the ones who climb up the pyramid the fastest. There is no other way that I know of to accelerate your learning journey as fast as possible than to do what I just said, right? To help
Yep.
those people. So again, it's backwards. So you're saying, hey, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'll be a promise. I'm going to find a niche. I'm going to go help people in that niche. But when I'm ready, please do it backwards. All right.
And the last comment I'll just throw up is the one from Adam, if I can find it again. Where are you? Right here. I like these. Just don't compare yourself with the people where there are people today. Look at where they were at the same point
Yeah,
in the journey as you are, and see
love it.
that journey and learn from that. I think that's a great insight.
Yeah. And I think we all struggle with that, the Avis, Reeds, and Adam Saxtons of the world, because, yeah, I mean, people look at us like, oh, Avi. And I'm like, no, there's no, oh, Avi, right? Like, I'm nothing special, right? I mean, that's why I started that Data Dungeon story. Like, guys, I was just stuck there, just the rest of you. And yeah, you put one foot in front of the other, and that's going to be the start of your journey. Well said, Adam.
I think we all have had certainly within YouTube, we've all had various related experiences with just coming up and having a channel, branding it, finding the niche, all the fun parts of creating that brand and culture and just identity online.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's so Adam is spot on, right? So I was thinking about, so I used the Google search ranking as an example, right? And if you look at Google now, man, they got pretty much their finger in every pot, right? I mean, in every pie, right? I mean, yeah, they run data centers and they offer that, and of course they own YouTube and all of this sort of stuff. So now they're doing a lot, but again, you can't look at that. Think about where they started, and they started
Mhm.
really small, right? It's like, yep, we're gonna do search now. Of course, we're going to do differently, or we're going to serve the people who want simplicity, right? I mean, this was the time of Alta Vista and all that stuff, where you go to a search engine and it was like, it is like, God, you were at a party, there's stuff. So then, no, we're gonna. That's our niche. That's how they started. And any story that I look at, like an Amazon, now, yep, they're yeah. I mean, they do everything. They started selling just books. So
Yep.
yeah. I mean, sometimes it can be misleading to look at people where they are, but yeah, you gotta understand where they started and just do the same. Take that first step.
100%. Is there any other closing comments you want to make before I think we wrap up for the day?
Follow me on LinkedIn. As I said, I've been really focused on helping people around their career, create that life of freedom, get that breakthrough success in theirs. And actually, I've been more active on LinkedIn than YouTube lately. I've been releasing videos every week there, something about a career topic. Tag me in there if you have any questions. You can always ask me there. I often come back, record a video, and just share with everybody. That way everybody can run. So yeah, we'll hang out there, connect with me there.
Absolutely, and all of his information is down in the description, so go check it out there if you want to contact him, check out his site, or like you said, message him on LinkedIn for any questions that you also just have about journeys and Power BI in general. Beautiful.
Also, and of course, I want to thank Reed. I mean, as Reed said at the beginning, that we go a while back, and it was such a, I remember, I mean, that moment when I met him, it was vivid, because again, I saw that spark in him. I saw him lit up. But what brings me just amazing amount of joy is that, you kind of see that candle lit up, but of course, Reed has gone on and kind of lit thousands of other candles. And I think that's great. I think the world needs more of that.
Thank you. And I saw a comment recently, I think on Twitter, it's just like, what's going on with Power BI? Like, there's so many great YouTube channels and streaming, like, versus other tools. Like, there's just so many cool stuff within the Power BI ecosystem. I think there's just a lot of really passionate people creating tons of great free content,
Yeah, Matt Allington talks about that, like in Reasons for Power BI. He mentions community, and I think he's spot on. There's like an amazing community of incredible individuals here.
Exactly. All right, Avi. Well, thank you so much for joining on today. I really appreciate that. Like, it's kind of nice to be able to reciprocate. Being on your channel a couple of years ago, and then being able to have you on here. Kind of a nice evolution, and again, like a full circle type of situation.
Yeah, glad to be on, my friend.
All right, everyone, thanks for tuning on and joining for this week. Again, check out any additional information below, and otherwise, I will see you all next week. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider hitting that like and subscribe button. And if you want to help support this channel, take a look at our channel memberships as well. And last but not least, please consider sharing this video on social media to help pass on this awesome content and to help the channel grow. So until next time.